Welcome to Passion Inspires. Join us as we explore the world of marketing and design and share insights and stories that spark inspiration and drive meaningful change. Welcome to Passion Inspires. This episode is for animal lovers, especially dog lovers. I want to tell you a story about a relationship with Paws with a Cause. They were going through a really hard time with donations. They had been dependent on workplace giving campaigns like through Ford Motor Company and these other huge corporations that had workplace giving. And during the recession, that began to drop off. And literally the first year, they lost several $100,000 in donations. And eventually they were about $2 million behind, if I remember the numbers properly. But it was a struggle. And they realized that they really needed to beef up their marketing and their philanthropy team. So they were working with a fundraising consultant to help them on the philanthropy side, and she was very engaged. It was Canary Consulting, and they were kind of part of the leadership by the time we got there in trying to acquire a marketing firm who could be their partner to help them with their messaging and their branding. Well, we got an RFP somehow. I don't even remember how. Somehow we ended up with an RFP on our desk. And as we explored this and learned more, I realized that we were going against some really good agencies that are here in Grand Rapids that are owned by some of my best friends in the industry, people that I greatly respect and admire. And I told Rachel, there's no way we're going to get this. There is no way. We're so small, and how could we possibly get this? These agencies are amazing. But she was determined. She said, no, Jeff, we're going to keep going after this. And in fact, she was so dedicated to try to get this account that she went beyond the RFP. And in our pitch, she presented a 2-year marketing plan. The time was ready for me to make the pitch. And I don't know if you've ever been in the Paws with a Cause boardroom, but they have this huge table. Man, it's got to be 12 to 15 feet long. And I was presenting at the end of this long table, and the person who was directly ahead of me was their founder. And I'm making this pitch the best I possibly can, telling them stories of other clients and how we do our research and how we feel like that's so important and why the research can lead us to the insights that we need for the messaging. And I felt like I was waxing eloquent. Well, right in the middle of the speech, the founder gets up and walks out. I'm still in the middle of my speech. What's going on? I didn't know what was going on, but I had to keep going because everyone else was sitting there. And I kept going. And later on, I found out he went out for a cigarette. So he came back in a few minutes later, and everything was good. So after we made that pitch, about a week or two later, their development director, Joe Doolin, and I believe Kathleen was on their team as well. They asked us if they could come to our office for a follow-up discussion. We said, sure, come on over. So we all sat together in Scott Allen's conference room at the time, and they asked us one question. They said, are you willing to give the research up? Maybe save some cost or whatever? And we said, you know what, Joe, no, we can't give the research up. That is so important that we get the story right. I'd rather have you hire another agency than give that up. He said, well, then you're hired. And we were just like blown away. We were so elated and so happy, and we just dove all in. And so obviously, as I shared with you how research is so important to us, we had one-on-one interviews with the founder, and when we met with Mike, one of the most important things he shared with us is that, this is more than a service dog. This is a mutually beneficial relationship. So we kind of tucked that thought away in the back of our hearts, and then we met with different people that had received a Paws dog because they get these dogs for free. I'll never forget this gentleman sitting across the conference room in a wheelchair. I said, what do you love most about your dog? And he said, well, I love that my Paws dog introduces me to girls on campus. He went to Grand Valley State University. And it was such a beautiful moment because I realized, people don't see the wheelchair, they see the dog. And for those moments, he could feel like a normal person without a disability, because women would come up to him and start talking with him about his dog. And he had this big joyful smile on his face, and I thought that is such a genuine reason why you should have a Paws dog. And then others would tell me about just how much they missed their dog when they were apart. One was apart for a few hours for a doctor's visit, and how she would greet her dog when they would see each other again as if they had never seen each other for days. And just the others shared how the dog became an emotional support. Like the dog could sense their moods and sense how they were feeling if they were down that day. And, as we know, for those of us who love dogs, they can truly be a companion. What we discovered was that the relationship between the Paws assistance dog and the client was really a love story. And that became kind of the lens for which we began looking at how we should approach their messaging. The other insight that we learned was that these Paws dogs were amazingly trained. For 1 year, the first year of their life, they would be trained by a foster puppy raiser family, and that family would teach them basic skills, basic disciplines. And then at the end of the year, the dog would be tested by the trainer to see if they could qualify to become a Paws dog. Well, I believe it was around 1/3 or 1/2 of the dogs made it through that test by the trainer. And so about 1/3 of the dogs were then set aside for training. And it wasn't like they all received the same training. They custom trained each dog for the client. They would line up the strengths of the dog with the needs of a client, and then for 1 year, that dog would be trained in skills that client needed for their life. And it was just this beautiful, investment into the dog for the needs of someone who was right-handed in a wheelchair and needed something picked up on the right side of their wheelchair. So they'd be trained for that. And I felt like these were like the elite forces of dog training. I felt like they were the special forces. If you were looking at the armed forces, they were the Green Berets. Or the PhDs of doctors. They were so well trained for one person. Part of our research as well was evaluating their current brand. And we saw these beautiful photos of these recently shampooed, bright, shiny hair of a lab standing there proudly with this cape on. And, this gorgeous photo of these dogs. Well, they're beautiful animals, beautiful creatures. But should that really be the center of the brand? And based off the discovery that we had about that the assistance dog and the client is a mutually beneficial relationship and that it's a love story, we felt like the messaging and the imagery should reflect that. So the main lead statement was, "You open doors." That's an obvious expression of what a dog literally does for a client with a physical disability. And then for children with autism, "You calm me." And then for people with hearing loss, it would be, "You listen for me." And then for people with that needed a seizure response dog, is, "You saved my life." And that statement reflected a true story of a dog who sensed that the client was going to be going into a seizure, who was on a dock on Lake Michigan. And the dog immediately went to get help and started barking and literally saved that person's life. And not all dogs can do that, and our client told us that, but it really reflected, though, how sensitive that animal can be to that person. And so we also shared with our client that of all the imagery that you have, once in a while you can show the dog alone, but 90% of the time, almost all the time, we want you to show that dog with their client. So we literally had an image of a boy hugging a dog, a child with autism, because when a child would have a tantrum or just emotionally break down and melt down, the Paws dog was trained to lie on the ground, allow the boy to hug them till they could calm down. So we showed that imagery of that child hugging that dog, and you calm me. And it just became really the essence of the brand. As they grew and developed relationships and philanthropy, that messaging was spot on. That's exactly what they needed so that people could see the benefit of the service and the mission that Paws was created for. The benefit wasn't to have this beautiful dog standing there proudly. The benefit was to serve the client and be part of their life in their love story with their client. One of the most exciting aspects of helping Paws with their messaging and marketing was when a client gave them a donation to pay for a video. The client said, well, I could buy you a van, I could buy you equipment, I can buy you training materials or dog food, but if you have a video that can help you become financially sustainable, help bring your mission to potential donors, help educate children in schools, and we need this video to do both. We need it to be child-friendly enough that we could show it in an elementary school to educate people on maybe becoming a foster puppy raiser family, or we need to show it to a corporate foundation and share with them our mission so that they could give us support and donation. So we thought, well, let's have fun with this. I pitched to them the idea that we are going to have a dog's like voice. The voice of the narration would be the dog's voice. That's what I should say. And we hired this amazing talent, and for some reason, he sounded like a dog to us. Had this deep, resonating voice. And the opening scene is, do you see me? Do you see me? I'm there on the left. And it had this ultra scan of this mother's tummy of a mother dog. And you see the little puppy in the womb. And he begins telling the story of his life and how he was born to be a Paws dog.
Hi, my name is Archer, and I'm a Paws assistance dog. This is my story. Can you see me? I'm the one on the end. This is my family. I'm 3 weeks old. I learn a lot from my mom and my brothers and sisters. Hey, bro. I love to explore. My nose tells me a lot about the world around me. We live in a Paws breeding host home. These special people volunteer so much of their time to take care of us. They feed us, keep us healthy, and give us lots of love. And they let us sleep a lot.
We had so much fun with that, and it was called You Needed Me, and was at that time about 7 or 8 minutes long, which was short, when we created that video. But they used that video for years in presenting Paws, and every aspect of that video was true to the journey of that dog. We also shared some really powerful stories from some of the clients. I remember one of the ladies that we interviewed, she had been through a tragic car accident. It had injured her brain so that she had seizures. And she talked about how her life just became a life of existence and how she had lost her moments in life. But when she got her Paws dog, her moments returned to her, where it wasn't just surviving and existing, it was living again.
It's gave me this rebirth of life again, and wanting more, and wanting to be able to give back however it is that I could, and become more, and be thankful for how many wonderful things I do have. Instead of think about what I can't do, I can focus on all the things I can do. He's given me the I can back.
Other stories of Cal and Artie, of this young boy who had also, struggled so much through life, and how it was such a huge struggle that their family literally had to separate so that one parent could take care of Cal at a time. And how the Paws dog brought such healing in his life emotionally that their family could be restored again, and how the parents even got their own lives back.
My name is Cal, and this little guy here is Artie. When I met Artie, I was the screaming kid that I used to be. I could relax with Artie. He could calm me down. I have someone there. I enjoy playing fetch with him, even though I don't do it often. Artie is the life that I could have never had. He is my life, basically. He is my life.
And so when you witness those stories, you think, this mission is absolutely amazing. But we also had some fun. So we had all this B-roll that we had in our library of all these different moments of a dog being trained. And so we thought, let's have some fun with this. So 2 of the trainers had been in improv. And we said, let's go to the studio, and you see a 30-second clip, and you tell us what you think that dog is thinking. And they just did an amazing job. We had all these I think there was 15 or 20 really fun 30-second clips. One of them shows the trainer, he's training this dog to help someone in a wheelchair. So the trainer's in the wheelchair, and he's training the dog to open the door that has a little leather latch on it. The dog can grab it with his mouth and open the door. And so the improv staff said, as a trainer is telling him what to do, he's thinking about food. The dog is thinking about food. He's thinking about, and so you hear this muffled voice because his mouth is on this leather piece of strap trying to pull the door open. And he said, can you please tell the people that yesterday supper came at 5 o'clock and the day before came at 5:05, and can you tell them to be on time for once? Just all these really fun clips that I never would have thought of that they created from all this B-roll.
All right, let's try these legs out. Oh man, this is all I gotta work with here? Oh, look at this. My stomach is almost touching the floor. Well, let's try the wood. Oh, look. Oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, guys gotta add some traction.
I'm grateful for Paws with a Cause. So grateful for the years that we had working with them.